Well, we're live. This is an OGGN live stream. We are, today's an important day. We have a really select group of executives that we've hunted down to talk about a really important subject. Today, we're going to get into the material reductions in downtime that flow to the bottom line. So we're going to really be talking about money, and I cannot wait to introduce you to our panel. One of the kind of like my digital hero is on the panel here, Sanjay Jawar. I've been able to watch a few of his videos about Realwear. I've been able to kind of see what that company has done over the last few years. You're talking about some serious capabilities that are available right now, that all of this topic, all of this subject matter, everything we're going to get into today and how it applies to the oil and gas industry is going to be incredible. And there's going to be something that everyone who's watching is going to notice, which is this is really a timely subject. It went with a lot of thought and a lot of thought leadership to really bring the content today. Before we get started, and I'm about to get to the panel, is I want to thank Stratus. You're going to see throughout today's show, you're going to see a link to where you can register, give your email. Stratus has supported us to where we'll be able to send anyone who sends in a request a written transcript of today's live stream. You're also going to be able to get the contact information of every single person on our panel. And you will also be entered in to win a couple swag bags. There's quite a few of them from Stratus. So I want to thank them and kind of get this started. So here we go. So the panel today is, we've got what I call the chief officer of getting shit done, Richard Lowe. How are you today?
Good, Warren. How you doing?
You know, you have a interesting part of this panel, because where you and I are going to sit is we are like the people that depend on what matters here. We're the ones, and where you sit, you're someone who's always looking for bigger, better, faster when it comes to dealing with talent out on the oil field and on job sites. But in addition to that, you're a money guy. Can you kind of just share with the audience just a little bit about what you do and why today was something you agreed to?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Warren. I was formerly the chief information officer for 3 different oil refining companies, a startup and a turnaround, as well as a transformation. Currently, I'm the CEO of a company called Blue Box Holding. I'm an advocate for new technologies and innovation, and especially using AI in the field, as well as IoT, and how it all links together and how it can actually add to the bottom line very easily.
Wonderful, wonderful. And now we're going to get into Carl Dahlin from Verizon. Now, Carl, what you do and what Verizon has done for the oil and gas industry, and especially with the 5G capabilities now, this is a significant part of what we're going to get into. Can you share with us a little bit about your role at Verizon, and then why you felt that this was compelling enough for you to join us today?
Yeah, thank you very much, Warren. As everybody knows, Verizon builds networks, right? We say we build the networks that move the world forward. And right now, especially with our recent announcement turning on our 5G network nationwide, really, really big news yesterday, we're very focused on IoT and getting everything connected to that network. And 5G allows us to do that. And that means that we can now connect virtually every device. We can move from connecting hundreds of devices in oil and gas to literally thousands and millions of devices. And one of the most important things that we allow to be connected is people. And that's what drives augmented reality solutions. And when we get people connected to those devices, they can see visualized summary information. They can drill into very specific things. It empowers them and allows them to get help and do things that significantly reduce downtime. So I'm very focused on IoT and the strategies around augmented reality and how it drives productivity and reduces downtime.
Terrific. Thank you. And Chris Munley, I got to get to you. Honeywell, you guys are doing a lot of things, not just in the oil and gas industry, but some of the technology and the initiatives that y'all have taken are going beyond just our industry. This is a great subject matter for you. This is going to be a fun hour, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been looking forward to this, and thanks for having us on the panel here. My role within Honeywell, I'm responsible currently for the sales and channel management in our Honeywell gas detection unit within our safety productivity solutions group. So this is a group that really outfits and protects workers with gas detection type technology, but also work with connected worker across all of Honeywell. And as you know, a lot of the large oil and gas companies use Honeywell operating systems, Experian to run the refineries. They use Honeywell building management services for some of their buildings, also warehouse technologies. So we're one of the largest edge device companies in the world. So one of the key things we're doing is stitching together that technology to really drive productivity for the end users and for the oil and gas industry. Now, downtime is one of the biggest impacts in terms of ROI. So any way we can keep the pumps flowing, everything else, by reducing that downtime is huge value to the end user. So that's what I'm working on today. And we actually, Honeywell is one of the biggest edge device companies I mentioned, but we're pivoting into a cyber industrial type company. So edge-based software, working with Realwear, with other companies like Realwear is very important to us, and we're taking advantage of that. So thank you.
Thank you. And Sanjay, let me tell you, I'm not joking about you being a hero. When I first heard about your device and what Realwear does and the intrinsically safe nature of it, and really dug into YouTube, right? That's what we all do, right? We start learning and trying to find out what we can find out just by doing some late night research online. Well, the very first presentation I saw of yours started with this amazing video where the guy is up on the wind turbine, and he's digitally has like a partner with him through these goggles, if you will. Not only is it what this product does, but your company as a whole has been a company that's made a big impact really fast, thousands of clients. For me to be sitting here looking at you on this panel, to me, there's got to be something compelling about this subject that you knew that this is the perfect place to be for this session.
First of all, thanks, Warren and Mark, for having us on. We're always delighted to support the show and to communicate to this audience. And yes, so Realwear has been, I think, at the forefront of especially intrinsically safe digital transformation, thanks to the head-mounted device that we have. And I have one here just in case no one's seen it. It's the HMT1, and it has this kind of attaches to the hard hat. And then you can look in the screen here and you can kind of operate it hands-free with your voice. And so we do make one of these for FMC1 D1 ATEX Zone 1. And because of that, we've had a large number of leading companies in the oil and gas and chemicals space, and even the utility space, using these devices. And so what we've seen is, it's part of a digital transformation effort. It's accelerated because of COVID. It was happening anyway. It happened a little faster in the last few months. We've really seen customers really start to, begin to scale out the early deployments that they had and move well beyond those pilot phases and into the scale deployments. And we see those beginning at places like Total and Shell and many others that we work with. And so, yeah, I'm really interested to kind of participate here because we see the results of the last several months of pandemic having accelerated by several years the pace of digital transformation in a lot of the customers that we work with the increased needs therefore for connectivity, which I know Jeff and Carl will be well positioned to talk about, and then it fits into the broader connected worker sphere, which I know Chris is very involved in his role at Honeywell, with both the safety and the productivity coming together. So great to talk with the community, and we're partners with most of the folks on this call here. So I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you, Sanjay, and Jeff Pond. Connected is this piece that's so critical to everything we're about to talk about. You're in a very kind of luxurious space as we go through this session. Can you tell everybody who is tuning in right now that we're just about to get this thing launched, how Connected fits into what we're about to get into, and then what kind of makes you a subject matter expert for us, because for what we're doing with not only just with COVID, but what's going on in the economy as a whole and the oil and gas globally.
Yeah, no. So first of all, appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity to participate today. It's a really exciting endeavor for us. As you mentioned, we really kind of do sit you kind of right in the middle of everything that a lot of the people are going to be talking about today. And Connected was founded around that premise of the of providing connectivity to the industrial connected worker and everything he or she may be utilizing. And so, as Sanjay and Chris talk about some of the different endpoints that are out there, we want to make sure that that great coverage that folks like Carl at Verizon are providing at the infrastructure level have the means of actually getting down and connected to those devices, such that that information that's being collected can actually be transmitted and acted upon in real time. So that's a really exciting endeavor for us and something that we're actively moving forward at this point. Warren, I think you might be on mute.
Hey, thank you. See, we're all looking after each other here. This is live, right? There's no scripts. Like we haven't fed anybody any information. You're getting it impromptu. Thank you, Stratus, for making this possible. Mark LaCour, what I wanted to say to you is that you being in the middle of OGG, being the editor-in-chief, and actually hearing the pain points that are going on in the industry, and you hear from these leaders what their challenges are today. It was really at first you knew that we needed to get out there and help companies solve.
Yeah, so this is not a normal year. Let's hope this doesn't become normal moving in the future. But when all this started, when COVID-19 started right after the double black swan event, we realized as a company that we need to do something to help share valuable, useful, pertinent information, real kind of rubber hit the road executable stuff. And that's what our series of live streams are. It's us bringing some of the top thinkers in the world around particular problems, and we're going to offer you some solutions to help fix those problems. You know, and this is a big one. So when you start thinking about downtime, a lot of people start thinking about finance, but it's also a safety thing, health, safety, environmental thing, right? So we're hopefully trying to bring some of the best and the brightest together to help solve some of the problems that's going on in the oil and gas industry.
Thank you. So, all right, we're going to get this baby started. So, Richard Lowe, I want to start with you. You know, you sit in a very unique place on this panel, because every single one of these things affects how you do business, how you consult oil and gas companies. And really, your history is about solving problems, helping people move the dial. And this subject matter of downtime and the cost of it, and not only just the cost of not having the right measures in place, but actually not having the awareness of what the solutions are. Can you just dig into this with me? And then we'll just kind of let this baby roll.
Thanks, Warren. When you said that I was in a unique position, I kept looking at the screen because I'm like, all right, I'm in the bottom in the middle. Maybe that has something to do with it. Yeah, so real uptime in the refinery, or uptime in any industry, is so critical. But in the refinery, you're talking millions and millions of dollars a day. So uptime for a unit or uptime for the whole refinery, and that can be impacted obviously by COVID. It can be impacted by a hurricane or just poor maintenance, or unplanned maintenance and unplanned downtime. So one of the things that I have seen through my years is, you know, the maintenance operators go out and they take readings on the units, vibrations, temperatures, the unit running hot, is it running cold, too many vibrations, things like that. So if we can use IoT and sensors from IoT to actually feed back to feed the data back and run analytics on it and determine, okay, is the unit or is the area of the refinery in jeopardy, or is an unplanned downtime event coming up? That's what you want to avoid. You can bring the refinery down to a slower capacity, or, you know, as Mark was saying, you can avoid a safety incident. Okay, all of us have been around for years, and we've seen safety incidents that have happened when, you know, maintenance has gone awry. So that's one of the things those are two of the things we're trying to do, is reduce downtime, unplanned downtime specifically. You can push downtime to, you know, a planned time frame, or alternatively, just, you know, focusing on the safety side. With COVID, I've seen the Realwear devices used quite heavily. Because with COVID, we've tried to limit the high-risk individuals well, we've tried to obviously limit and physically distance people throughout society, but many of the high-risk individuals that are in the refineries today, perhaps keep them out of the refinery, and using the Realwear devices, we can make sure that the folks who are inside the refinery doing normal maintenance and doing normal operations can function.
I love it. So with that, we're going to open up this first section, which is about the cost of getting it wrong, the cost of not being prepared, the cost of not looking into the things that you guys as a panel are doing and serving for the oil and gas industry. So I'm going to open up the panel. I'd like for each of you to have a chance to share your thought, your idea. I asked that I'll kind of be a timekeeper. I'm going to give everybody like 4 to 5 minutes to respond. And then we'll kind of, do a little bit of a summary of that segment. And we're going to move on to the second part of the interview. So with that, I'm going to start off with you, Sanjay, because you risked everything in this space, right? I want to start with you. You are somebody who your entire company is based on you seeing, not just without even COVID being here, as this was a vision of yours. You had this many years ago. So I'll let you take the cake here and we'll start passing it around.
Thank you. Yeah. So, we had a vision, beginning in 2016 about how hands-free devices could really help with this problem of the cost of downtime for industrial users. And, there are a number of ways that can be addressed. And one of the most important ones that is scaling right now across the world is this idea of remote assistance. And so, you wear the device on your head, it has a camera, and you're live streaming that video to somebody on the other end of a video call, be that in, Microsoft Teams or Cisco WebEx or Zoom or a number of other applications from our partners, LibreStream and many others. And that really, it helps the expert be available immediately, even if they're not on site. And because of the hands-free nature, it really, means that the task can be done, particularly the safety critical task that requires, PPE, requires, tools, and it can be, watched and coached by the experts. So we've had a couple of great examples recently that illustrate this. One would be our customer Shell. In this case, in Germany. So they had a fuel terminal in a place called Wesseling, and they had an IT glitch, and the IT glitch actually shut the entire facility down. So normally, you call up the IT provider. In this case, it's a contractor in Belgium, and they try and troubleshoot it over the phone. And if they can't, then they get on the plane, and they're there in 4 or 6 hours later, and they troubleshoot the servers, troubleshoot the networking right there. In this case, COVID couldn't travel from Belgium to Germany, couldn't troubleshoot it over the phone either. So they were able to use an HMT1, do that whole live video, and have the specialist kind of look at what was going on in the logs, what was going on in the network, what was going on in the servers, and essentially fix it. And it turned out to be a network cable that was plugged into the wrong socket right in the patch panel. And so not a difficult problem to solve if but that would have otherwise caused probably a couple of day downtime in the fuel supply for southern Germany, right? Tankers coming up, refilling, heating oil, all kinds of things. And so you think about the cost, Shell's a big player, right? That's a significant proportion of the fuel supply for a significant part of a very large country that's going to be impacted, that was able to be solved in, really, half an hour. And so sometimes you get these, these big impact events where the cost of downtime is extremely high, and these systems prove themselves very quickly. And those are certainly where lead customers kind of use these types of devices. They kind of use them as an insurance policy. Now what it's moved to is a little bit more the proactive use of these technologies versus the reactive maintenance use of the technologies. And of course, as everyone knows, if you want to minimize downtime proactively, then it's all about the quality of your maintenance and the quality of your inspections. And so what we're able to see now is by supplementing your typical maintenance rounds, your inspection rounds, with experts that are watching with video recording capability that's so easy. You just use a voice command, start recording, right? And now, you know, whether you're turning that valve, inspecting that pressure gauge, looking at the status of this weld, measuring, you know, how much vibration there is on this pump, seeing with the thermal camera attachment how hot it is, you know, you actually get a recording of that, a photo or a video. Cloud storage is cheap. Let's just archive the video of every inspection that we do. Now, if we ever need to know what happened, we've got a record of it. We can go back and watch the video. And you can start to then notice patterns as to what's happening. And that, you know, higher quality, higher compliance to the process of doing rounds and readings and inspections and maintenance, in many cases coupled with IoT, data available on the device as well, improves the quality of those processes, which in turn, you know, improves the quality of your uptime and minimizes unplanned downtime. And so we see that type of use case going on. The third category that I think would be good to just touch on is the planned downtime, right? So we have planned maintenance schedules, we have refinery turnarounds, we have, you know, capital equipment installation where there's planned downtime in a lot of these facilities. And so what happens in a planned downtime? A new piece of equipment is going to be installed, right? It's been a 12-month project. It's you know, it's $20 million. Typically, you know, 2 months before it comes on stream, there's a factory acceptance test or there's a commissioning test. 25 people fly in from the vendor across the world and they commission the equipment and an acceptance test is done. And, you know, that usually triggers a payment milestone to that vendor. So they get the last 3 million or the last 5 million of that $20 million blowout preventer or whatever it might be, right? That's paid to them at that time. Well, you know, if you can't fly your people out, then how are you going to get the equipment commissioned and how is the vendor going to get paid? And so these things are being done now with remote video and they're part of making sure the planned downtime occurs on schedule. In some cases, Honeywell in particular has been able to, even during this pandemic, get capital installation projects completed ahead of schedule through the use of these remote tools. So this goes to minimizing the planned downtime as well as the unplanned downtime.
That's
so
terrific. Go ahead. Oh, okay, I didn't know I had a little bit of feedback there. So, Mark, I'm going to have you on mute for just a moment. I'd love you to just summarize what you heard because I'm wondering if you heard what I heard. It's, you know, here we are. We're talking about Honeywell. We're talking about Realwear. But give me your takeaway as you hear Sanjay talking. You realize that here we are. We're really getting into uptime, downtime, and the cost of that. What's your takeaway?
Well, so my takeaway, and hopefully my audio is better now. My takeaway is that the world has changed. The way we do business has changed. Our problems are still a lot the same, but the way that we address them has to change. And we're sitting here talking about not only the tools, not only the technology and the process, but think about the culture. Think about what Sanjay said about, you know, the guy being able to show up remotely and do inspections. That's a big thing for our industry. And it's, once again, to my point about safety, it's safer for everybody when somebody doesn't have climbed, you know, 30 ladders or, you know, look out, you know, over in a bozeman's chair underneath a rig or something like that. And even in our refiners and petrochemical plants, you know, we have planned outages, which is a way to make sure that they maintain efficiencies, right? But how do you do a planned outage when you can't get contractors on site? And once again, we've solved that problem. This group here has solved that problem. So I'm excited for what we're doing for the industry.
Thank you. I love that. So Jeff Pond, I'm going to get to you because here it is, you know, uptime, downtime, keeping employees safe. Connected is in that same boat of you guys have built your company about connectivity. A lot of some people who might not be too deep in the oil and gas industry might not realize how critical it is that there are some long timers that are in our industry that have knowledge that maybe a younger teammate doesn't have out in the field. Connected and its connection to everything that goes on between not just the Verizon aspect, but the Realwear aspect. This is what you're all about. Can you talk to that and this? Just the changing of jobs and how that gets affected by this. And then you add in COVID and the importance to keep employees safe and how it all ties together.
Yeah, no. So I think you touched on a couple of key points there. A big challenge that Sanjay's talked about, and that a couple of other folks have already talked about, is this generational shift where you have a workforce that has 10, 20, 30, 40 years of experience, and they just almost know by instinct what they need to go do when they arrive on site. And then you have a new generation of workers that are now entering the workforce where they just, they haven't had that those same decades of kind of experience to really show them the ropes on what they need to do. So having the ability to have almost that expert sitting on your shoulder, working there side by side with you throughout that process, really helps you do that job more effectively and efficiently. And in a pre-COVID, pre-pandemic world, the great thing about that is that it allows for people to go out there and be actually on site with you. But now, with things that have changed, it's no longer possible for those people to be right there with you. So you really need to have the capabilities that Realwear is introducing with their HMT1Z1, and that other folks are introducing with the different sensors, to be able to have that access to see what's happening in the field, interact with people, instruct them on what to do, all while you're kind of maybe looking at real-time video streaming. The challenge there really exists about having enough bandwidth or having the right connectivity options to actually be able to transmit and receive. And what a lot of people don't understand is, in the consumer world, it's great. It's easy to do that. People can take a smartphone out of their pocket and they can do a video call or a voice call really easily. But when you go into some of these refineries and some of these locations, it's not as easy to do that, primarily because of some of the restrictions around devices that can be used in those types of environments, and them needing to be intrinsically safe certified. So what we're really looking to do is to bring in that intelligent connectivity hub that has that intrinsically safe certification associated with it, designed and built to communicate rapidly with these endpoints, whether it's a Realwear HMT1Z1, a Honeywell toxic noxious gas sensor, so on and so forth, and be able to collect that data and transmit it back over both the public and private cellular networks, back to somebody that's sitting in command and control, or somebody that's sitting in their home office, and being able to see that and in real time be able to respond to it. So that's really what we're focused on around here. And we think that's, it's a really big thing, because if you think about it, one of the big challenges that, or one of the big objections that we typically face is, well, it's expensive for product X versus product Y. But when you think about the cost of having to fly somebody out on site, or having to wait an extra 5 hours for somebody to show up to help you fix something that just went down, or to address something that could have been addressed proactively, it bears nothing in resemblance to what it actually is to bring connectivity into these types of environments.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks a lot. That it makes so much sense too. This connectivity and how it solves so many problems is evident as, I sit here and listen to you guys, and also the way that it bridges that the connectivity amongst people and expertise. So Carl Dahlin, Verizon has obviously been majorly proactive in how it's been building out these systems. A lot of people who might not be aware of the importance of what Verizon does for the oil and gas industry, all you have to think about is when you need connectivity to a remote area where you don't have normal cell service. As you sit here and you listen to us kind of go back and forth about this importance for people to be able to talk to people, the safety and the risk intelligence that is offered through these devices and this way of thinking, I'm sure there's a whole lot that you could share about right now, where we're at, and how all of this affects somebody's bottom line if they do get it wrong, which is really how this thing started. When you don't have this capability, you could have very large losses just from people not being able to take care of business.
And people do, Warren. It's not a question of, if it happens. I mean, it happens today, and it's a significant amount of dollars to these oil and gas companies, and so it ends up being about the connectivity. Like to Jeff's point, we've got to get stuff connected. You can have a remote expert help you out to walk you through something, and it can be, preventative maintenance is really important, as well as being able to respond to things as they're happening. But as we start to get all these devices connected, sensors on everything, we're able to do more than just, the standard maintenance, right? Now we get into the predictive kind of maintenance, condition-based maintenance, where sensors detect a level that goes out of threshold, and then, that triggers an action. So we're able to get to it before. And that leads to analytics. But you've got to get everything connected. Then you've got to have the information that's collected and sorted in the appropriate way and summarized and stored, and then your systems of record, can process it and provide the analytics and all that stuff. In some cases, it's really critical stuff that we're talking about, so it has to be real-time execution, and we help you implement an edge strategy there where you can, execute things, at the edge. But it's a combination of all of these things to really make sure that all the things that are causing downtime can be addressed. And it's being able to have workers there to respond to it, to bring in expertise without having to fly them around, so you have a faster response, but getting the, equipment itself connected so that we're monitoring it, getting to the point where, we know ahead of time, and through analytics, we can tell when something's going to fail and take those actions to it. So, making sure that, especially now with 5G rolling out everywhere, we actually have the capacity to connect everything. And we have the ability to slice up the bandwidth to make sure that certain elements get priority, over the other elements. Put together a picture of our factory. So
that's great.
To the
That's
network.
great. And Chris, I don't know how I could set it up any better than that, because this idea of sensors and being out at the edge, right? And for people who don't know what the edge is, it just means when you're out there in the most distant part of the industry, that is the edge. These trucks and where they go, that's the edge. And there's these machines and there's sensors. And just like you would love to know if you were about to have a cardiac arrest, so you could just be at the doctor's office before you actually go down. This is what you're in the business for. This is what we're talking about right now, is avoiding things proactively, making the conscious decision to take your business to the next level, to avoid so much that now is possible. And with that, Chris, I'll just let you chime in, because there's a lot of neat things Honeywell is doing, and I'll let you scratch the surface.
Yeah, absolutely. And just building on what Carl said, Honeywell is one of the largest safety companies in the world, and this is personal protective equipment. Probably heard a lot about us with the N95 mask, but we outfit head-to-toe workers in dangerous environments like oil refineries and mines. So what we're doing is putting sensors on those individuals in their PPE. They're already connecting those people, whether it's a gas detector, it's a helmet, it's gloves. You have real time and non-real time, as Carl pointed out, right? So can you pull information back quickly to make quick decisions, or do you have non-real time information that you could do data analytics on, machine learning, right? AI. So I call it Moneyball for safety. So even before the person goes out there for his job, you can figure out the proper probability of something happening, right? An example of that is in gas detection. So with our connected gas detectors using, we're not yet, but using technology like Jeff's company, right? We can actually, and Verizon, obviously, you can pull information back real time and determine, has there been an incident, a gas incident, right? Can we address it quickly so we don't have to shut down the plant, right? Because as Richard pointed out, millions of dollars a day, right, in shutdown costs. So and then can you actually map out the gas leaks or gas exposures on a geographical grid, determine maybe there's a process issue. Maybe you can do inspections during off-process hours, so you don't put that individual in harm's way. So there's a lot we can do with the data, right? But we have to get the data, and that gets into the necessary versus sufficient argument here, right? If you look at the iPhone, everyone thought Steve Jobs did a great job with the iPhone, but without Verizon's network, without micro electronic chips from not Samsung, but other semiconductor manufacturers, right? You needed high-speed bandwidth for that. And if you look at in the industry we're talking about, it's rather medieval when you get into the workplace when it comes to connectivity. And that's why Jeff's company having that ability to get that connectivity, either through with Verizon as well, pulling that data back, because you need intrinsically safe devices, right? And it's really hard to do connectivity in those hazardous environments. And then with Sanjay's technology and Realwear, that's a great example of pulling information back through applications and hardware, so we can make real-time decisions and use that data almost real-time or in analytics to power some of the applications that Honeywell runs. So Honeywell doesn't do everything. We partner with a lot of folks. No one has everything. You really need to build an ecosystem here, and that's why it's important to have open APIs and create. And the other part of the iPhone, obviously, was applications. We're not really at the application level yet in a big way. Like Sanjay's driving a lot of that, but you need that connectivity. You need the ability to actually pump those applications through analytics to make it happen. And just one other point I want to make is that with the double black swan, as Mark called it, I mean, we're seeing acceleration in tech cycles. We've seen it in e-commerce. You're going to see it in this world as well. Because if our school kids and college kids are going to be learning online, right? If their professors can be halfway around the world in Costa Rica at a yoga retreat where they just take a break and teach, why can't we have subject matter experts do the same thing? And this ties into safety too, because imagine it's not just the older workers retiring, which is a big deal. It's younger workers who may have comorbidities or may have existing conditions who can't go on site, right? So they have the expertise, but then they can work remote. So just facilitating that video ability to do inspection rounds and other things is a big game changer.
Terrific. Thank you. And that's something I want to point out. And Sanjay, I'd love you to just unmute for a second, because I want to say something and just see where intuitively you respond. This is global. I mean, this is a global issue that you guys are solving. Doesn't matter if you're in the US or you're in Africa. Even Realwear has clients globally, correct?
Yeah, we do. We are we are global. Yeah, at least 50 countries. Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. And all right, well, I'll conclude that. Richard Lowe, while you unmute, I want to just tell everybody, if you're watching this, I know people are hopping in, hopping out. I want you to know that there will be a transcript that you can ask. It's being sponsored by our sponsor, Stratus, today. OGGN has decided that if you go to the link that you see scrolling along the bottom here, you will be able to not only receive the full transcript of today's interview, but you're also going to be able to receive an entry into a swag bag giveaway that we're doing. So definitely go to the link, take advantage of the opportunity. Richard, just wow, right? Like as we just get through that, it takes a little time, but I don't think there's like one thing that we heard that isn't essential for anybody who's in our industry, who's looking how to make more money, be more effective, and rise to today's marketplace and what's going on, right?
No, each of the components of the ecosystem, as Chris mentioned, I mean, it's whether it's the network, it's connected, it's the Realwear, it's the Honeywell sensors, each of the pieces hits and they all have to work together. Okay, I tried at prior companies that I worked for to launch Realwear, and immediately came in with a network problem. And then, of course, we had the sensor problem when we were trying to do analytics and predictive analytics. So it all comes together. And if you don't have it all together, it's not going to work. And whether it's refining, oil and gas, chemicals, manufacturing, all the pieces fit together. I did have to laugh when I guess it was Chris mentioned that the industry itself is a little bit, I think you used the word prehistoric. I'll be a little bit more delicate or politically correct and say, yes, the industry is a little bit slow. It's a little bit slow, but that's because of safety. And that's because of concern for safety incidences. And, it's downtime and it's safety. And we want everybody to walk home or go home at the end of the day fully aware. So all of it comes together. And I think that's what we all have to realize.
Yeah, I just meant the connectivity options, right? Yeah. Some of the IT is brilliant, right? And
I'm not taking offense, Chris. I'm not going to take offense to it. It's all right.
Gotcha.
Well, that's great. So thank you, guys. That concludes our first segment. Again, if anyone wants the transcript, you will see the link. It'll be in comments. You can direct message OGGN. You can direct message me. There's a whole lot of places you'll be able to find this link that will not only get you the transcript, but get you entered into our sponsor Stratus's giveaway. So definitely do that. Mark LaCour, COVID changed everything, and you started seeing what was already suffering more. You saw people not just having to protect their businesses, but now you're in a position where you might have a golden employee that might be in the most riskiest threshold as far as like the age demographics. I mean, it goes on and on. COVID changed everything and took these guys that have basically every single company that's on this panel. There is lots invested into this subject matter, lots invested into the technology, lots invested into supplying the oil and gas industry with solutions. COVID just made them so much more essential than ever.
Yeah. So first thing, thank you for pointing me out when you talk about the older generation. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, look at what we're doing right now, gentlemen, and audience, right? Last year at this time, Warren, we would have been doing this in person at the Cannon, right? This is how much has changed. We're still able to do this knowledge transfer. We're still able to help people and companies understand what their options are remotely. And to everybody's point on the panel, that's what we can do moving forward. You know, the COVID-19 lockdown that we're going through here and the rest of the world, this is not going to be our last pandemic. Don't think that this is going to happen one time and disappear. And we have to keep our businesses running. Whether it's a public company and you have to worry about shareholder value, or it's a private company, you have to worry about the bottom line. Things need to get done. And there's new ways and new processes and new techniques that we need to adopt. And to everybody's point, I agree with you. I've seen the adaptation of new technology in oil and gas in the last, say, 3 years faster than the previous 22 years. And we need to go there. The other thing is that the public is actually expecting more from us. We are now all, as people that work in the industry, in the public eye. And so we need to make sure that we're good stewards of the environment. We need to make sure that we document things precisely, that there's an audit trail, so that if something does happen, we can go back and find the root cause. And until the technology like Realwear and the ability to connect from like Verizon and connected, and then all the sensors that companies like Honeywell do, sometimes you didn't have that audit trail. Sometimes you couldn't determine root cause when you had an incident. So I'm actually really hopeful, even though I'm getting tired of doing everything on Zoom calls, I'm really hopeful moving forward that we're actually going to be able to increase efficiencies, decrease downtime, decrease lost time incidences, and enjoy our jobs, day-to-day jobs more and more. So this is, once again, this is an exciting time, I think, for the oil and gas industry.
Thank you. So guys, I want to encourage you. I think we have pretty good audio. I want to encourage you guys. Let's just unmute. I mean, once we see how the conversation goes, feel free to mute because somebody's talking. But I would like you guys just to share with us, like ping pong each other. I really think that this is a significant subject matter that let's just take 10 minutes to really kind of unravel it.
Yeah, I'd like Carl to actually step in and talk a little bit about 5G, because the jump in ability and to have that type of bandwidth is phenomenal. People don't understand the ramifications. Things like, up until just recently, you had to wire your entire building with Cat6 cable. Well, with 5G, you don't have to do that anymore. And I think for an industry that's old, heavy steel, I think things like 5G technologies and a lot of the other stuff. So it's not just the 5G that Verizon's is doing very well, but things like their backhauls, right? Their network is rock solid. And it's more than just the 5G endpoint. It's everything they've built for the years before that. And they're also doing it in a way that helps the oil and gas industry. If I look at all the petrochemical plants and refiners in the Gulf Coast of the U.S., I promise you 90%, 95% are in Verizon's coverage area. So that type of connectivity is something I think is going to really propel us forward in a great way. And Carl, I'd love your 2 cents on that.
No, I think I'm just going to give the rest of my time to you because you do a pretty good job of that, Mark. Those are super good points. But, you know, I think one of the most important things that I want to get across today, and, you know, 5G is important because now it's available everywhere, right? And you can connect these things. So the folks that are listening on this call that are in the industry, what we're talking about here isn't rocket science. This is all stuff that's available today, and it's super easy to get started, right? Whether you got 5 or 10 workers that you want to connect and have them getting remote assistance. There's solutions today for plugging things into the network. You don't have to worry that this is some futuristic thing and it's going to take millions and millions of dollars to implement. We're talking about saving millions of dollars. So some of the most basic things that you can do to eliminate downtime today can be implemented much easier than you think from the companies just sitting on this panel right now. And at Verizon in particular, we have a number of services where we'll come out and take a look at what you have and help you define a pilot or something like that. Take a look at what it'll take to pull up, part of a refinery or an entire site. And you shouldn't hesitate to get involved in this stuff because it's not overly complex. All the technologies are ready to go today. And, it's important that you start on this journey if you haven't already, because it's going to make a big difference in business and who's competitive and who's not in this industry. And we're enabling some pretty amazing things. And with 5G, especially now, we've sort of solved how we get some of the other remote stuff connected in a fast way that allows us to eventually connect millions of your devices, but shouldn't prevent you from starting today with parts of your operation or something and getting some experience with this.
And Carl, I would echo that. What I found in other companies that I've worked with when in this industry is when we start small and we are successful on a small piece, and if we work with Verizon and Connected and Realwear and Honeywell to say, okay, this is our defined scope, and that's what we stay within, and we deliver that, then we gain credibility with the organization, and then we get the funding and the support we need to expand that out. So as you pointed out, A, it's not rocket science, B, the pieces are there, and C, my suggestion is always start in smaller chunks, because there's no need to try and swallow the whole elephant, and a refinery is a very large elephant. You just try and swallow it one piece at a time.
Absolutely, well put.
Yeah, what we've seen in the customer journey is almost always this video collaboration. Heads up, hands-free video collaboration is the quickest bang for the buck, right? I mean, it's very clear the first time you use it that someone didn't have to travel, that some expert was available faster, that some downtime was resolved faster. But often seems to be the first place. But then we see the same technology that you put in, the investment in network and connectivity, and then devices, and then software. That's really what it boils down to. And then security, IT security, which is often a long pole in the tent. A lot of work's been done in that area in the last year in these devices and applications. It's largely, I will never say completely solved, but at least business as usual to solve the security challenges here. Then you've got that platform, and the next use case is nothing more than another app. And we know that we can get apps out to our phones quickly. So, a little example would be Texmark. Texmark has this facility called the Refinery of the Future. It's a sort of a showcase for a lot of new stuff that they've done, and they brought in systems integrator, CB Technologies, that really helped to put their arms around all these different use cases and prove them out in a real operating refinery. And sure enough, you see them all there. They're all working successfully. You've got video collaboration, but you've also got the IoT, with ThingWorks and PDC and visualization of that. And you've got work instructions and for specific tasks that can be encoded one step at a time. They've got access to documents. They put all their PDFs in the cloud so that you can look at the maintenance manual for any piece of equipment in the refinery and just get it within seconds and look at it right to the right page. So they have a super cool use case which is to do with railcar audits. So they have they refine petroleum products. They put them in a rail car, and they have a rail track that goes through. And before the rail car leaves, you've got to do an inspection and audit. Intrinsically, used to require an intrinsically safe camera, difficult to climb up to the top of the rail car. They got all that done hands-free, and able to get their rail car audits done 80% faster. So I think the foundation is invest in the underlying platform components, device, network, applications, sensors, connectivity. Find the first use case that gives the biggest bang for the buck, but that platform will then mean the second and third and fourth are much, much easier and faster to do. And the ROI really builds up quickly once you put the platform in place.
That's great. And someone had asked a question about PPE and like the ability for sensors on PPE or something like that. Any of you guys have any comments on that, like from privacy concerns on that, or maybe even from a, here it is. It says, have you identified privacy concerns around fitting PPE with sensors that collect data practically about employee behavior?
Yeah, absolutely. I can cover that because I'm right in the midst of it. I mean, we work with most of the Fortune 500 companies worldwide. And, you know, specifically in Europe, you can't do any private information that with servers that are hosted overseas. So if you're serving Shell in Europe and you have private information, you have to have local servers in the EU. Okay, so that's a big deal. Then you have union concerns too, right? I mean, I know you know, you can't walk into a facility and like one of my applications I built was basically a FICO score for safety, and it had all these different data things that tied in kind of like your credit score, right? And one of the things was around health, because if a person has asthma or has a respiratory condition, if you have a high particulate matter that day, that person's fatigue level is going to go up. But to get that information, just to know that person has asthma or a condition like that, that is not readily available according to a lot of union laws. And plus, individuals don't want to volunteer that information because they might think there might be retaliation or whatever. So, you know, my view on that is you really have to provide an ability to opt in where the worker feels like he will be safer if he knows the company has their back and they're not using it for nefarious reasons, right? Where if he knows that if he's doing a lone worker type inspection, right, up on a ladder, and he's using the Realwear, you know, connected to Verizon or Jeff's application, you know, can that individual actually, can we measure that individual's fatigue using personal information? We can do it better so he feels more secure. Now, I know one company, I'm not going to mention their name, what they did, they actually had an opt-in situation where they provided a $500 or $1,000 benefit, right, towards paying their insurance or something else. And they wore these little pulsometer things on their wrist that measured steps and measured heart rate and other things. And it was a European company. So there's ways to do it, but it's not easy. It's a speed bump to getting the data.
That's great, guys. Chime in. We have a couple more minutes. And before you do, I just want to tell everybody, yes, there will be a transcript of this entire interview. Click the link below. You can find it through OGGN or any of us, just direct message. It'll have all the connect informations for everybody who's on the panel today. So check it out. We've got it scrolling right there at the bottom of the screen. But go ahead. Let's do a few minutes because that's a really great topic.
So, Chris, the way I've seen that also done, as you mentioned, with safety, and if you're using it for man down or crisis accountability, emergency accountability, then that seems to get everybody's attention and gets everybody to opt in, as you said.
Yeah, and just building on that point, a lot of things workers don't want to be tracked. Meaning geographically, where are they? Are you taking a break? Are you having not a smoke break in a refinery, but, you know, dipping tobacco, whatever you're doing in that break? Because if you look at the Amazon warehouses, it's interesting, there was an article out today about Amazon was monitoring breaks and they was penalizing workers. And if you go in an Amazon warehouse, I mean, that is really well run. There's a reason why we pay low prices for delivery, because they got that down to a science. Now, in oil and gas industry, they're not there yet at what I call directed work. And Honeywell actually does a lot of warehouse technology. So one of the things we're doing is taking the learnings, the best practices from the warehouse and applying it to the industrial space. Understanding that it's a higher level worker, more knowledgeable than a typical warehouse worker. And the pay scale is a lot higher too, they're more productive. But time on task, I'll tell you, like I've mentioned it before, it's less than 50% time on task for some oil majors when they're out, doing work in the space. But if you look in time on task in an Amazon warehouse, it's close to 90% and up. And that's actually doing the time they're actually doing work. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Chris, I have to say this much: the oil and gas industry doesn't call it time on task. We make our own acronyms all the time. It's time on tool. I just find it funny. Maybe that's one of the reasons we have such a low number, right? Maybe we should step in, learn more from Amazon.
But I think a lot of it is digitization too. Can you scan information directly from a Realwear headset so you don't have to type it in? Because in certain locations I've been into, you have to fill out punch cards, right? You manually have to fill them out, and then someone processes it, types it in. If you can do the digital capture of the information, you just get a huge boost in time on task.
And not only time on task, but also accuracy, right? I mean, I've been on certain sites where people are writing stuff down, right? And gosh, it's chicken scratch. There's coffee stains. There's everything all over it. And when somebody tries to go figure out what it is that you wrote down 2 weeks ago, it's just a pain to figure that out. In most cases, they end up just discarding the information, where if you're actually doing it in real time, it's accurate and it's actionable.
Yeah, and safety, because imagine if you're on a ladder, you're trying to write something down, right? If you can capture it digitally or audibly, it's great. I saw one guy write something he took his glove off and wrote it on his hand, right? And then he sweated. So he wasn't sure it was actually written on his hand later. Right? So.
That's terrific. Sanjay, I feel like you were going to say something to that nature. I know that we're just a few minutes from closing out, but final thoughts.
I mean, just resonating with the time on task comment that Chris made, or time on tool, or wrench time, as I've also heard it called. I mean, I probably won't mention the customer here because of confidentiality, but a super major oil company, very interesting, use case that was described to me. This company has several roles, which I learned about, right? There's mechanical technicians, process technicians, and job planners. So the job planner's role is super interesting. Job planner goes out to the plant and documents everything that's going to need to be done for some future job, right? And that involves taking pictures, writing notes, and creating essentially what's going to be a work order for a process technician or mechanical technician to go execute later. And so what was happening in this company is the job planners, they go out with their intrinsically safe cameras, they take pictures, they write things in a notebook, they come back to their desk, right? They upload all the images from the camera onto their PC, and then they transcribe their notes, and then they try and put that all, they often go out and take lots of surveys before they actually get to write up their work orders afterwards. And they're trying to figure out, well, which picture goes with which site, and where did I take this picture, and what note goes with what picture. And I've got like 2,000 JPEG files, and they're all named more or less the same, so I can't even figure that out, right? Use a device like ours, you know where it was taken, you got the GPS, you might add a voice note as you take it, it automatically gets synced to the work order through the cloud, and you just take out hours and hours a day. That the estimate was that the process here could take 2 hours per day out of this person's job in terms of efficiency. Out of an 8-hour shift, you could take 2 hours. And so, time on task, right?
Wonderful. Well, guys, it's been an hour. It goes fast, and there's so much here that I'm sure, as we kind of get more specific with different ways that we can share these different silos of really amazing information, not just from connectivity and uptime and downtime and all of that, but then you just get into the whole safety and risk and so much more. But thank you. We took a really good shot at this today. Stratus, I want to say thank you. Anyone who's watching, you can have access to this transcript. Sometimes it's nice just to have the document so you can search the subject matter that you're looking for. Every single person on this, I'll call it a stage, on this screen is really here to help. The whole reason why we even got a chance to do this is that everybody loves the industry. We understand the challenges that are at hand right now in this most timely of timely obstacles that we're experiencing, not just with COVID, but what COVID has done, ironically, as a favor to everybody, is to make us rise, rise above, to realize that these things, these challenges are really forcing us into the future. And this group did a great job at sharing how to access this in today's world. So thank you, Mark LaCour. Before we shut it down, I'll just let you say one last word before we all, I guess, wave goodbye.
Yeah, so appreciate all the audience questions coming in. We love doing this thing. We're doing these once a month, and actually pretty soon we'll be doing 2 of these a month. But thanks to all the panelists. I mean, this is some deep learning stuff. I appreciate everybody's time. Warren, get us out of here.
All right. So, hey guys, thank you. And from OGGN and Stratus and all of our team, thank you to Russ Johns and his team that have been doing all the behind the scenes. And of course, the OGGN marketing team that has made this so visible for everybody. So thank you and peace out.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.